sleep.
Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing our birth story. Beforehand we've written out a bit of our story because I was in labour for 2 days, so trying to remember your labour when you're in labour, that's hard work. The main thing I wanted to say is that labour is different for everybody. I'm telling my story and the way I pictured labour for me and the way I wanted labour to be for me, the way labour went for me and what we used to make it a certain way. But however everyone else has their labour or plans to have their labour is 100% okay. Everybody is different, and what I needed to have a calm birth is different to what somebody else might need to have a calm birth. For me, I hadn't given birth before and I didn't have any clue what to expect, so I knew I wanted to be super educated going in there. I wanted to have an idea of what all my different options were, what things we were going to be presented with, what paths my birth may take, whether I'd have to have an epidural or a cesarean. So basically I wanted to learn about all these different options and be as prepared as possible. You're never going to know how your birth is going to be. You can plan all you want, but however it turns out, it's most likely not going to be what you planned for. I just don't want anybody to be offended by anything we say, so don't apply what we're saying to anybody else's birth or your birth or your experiences. This is a situation between me and Tris and the way we wanted to experience birth, and that does not put any judgment onto anybody else, and we are completely comfortable with however anybody else chooses to birth their baby. Yeah, so I gave birth, surprise! We have a 6-month-old. We know the exact day that we conceived. We were actually at Splendor, which is a music festival. Yeah, well, Tristan didn't pull out. He was just basically like, you'll be right.
Risk it for the biscuit.
Literally 4 weeks later, I was supposed to get my period. My period was 2 days late, and those whole 2 days we were joking. We're like, oh, it'd be so funny if I'm pregnant. No, I'm not pregnant. I would know, I'd feel it. I just remember waking up, and my first thought when I woke up, I was like, I'm pregnant. I can't even explain it. I don't know why I thought it. I don't know if maybe I had a dream or whatever it was. I just woke up and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be pregnant. So I went and got some banana bread because just needed some sugar in my life, and got a pregnancy test and a big bottle of water. I just kind of was like, yeah, I'm gonna be pregnant, I'll take it. Took it, and I was pregnant. I cried immediately. It was like, that's a baby, an actual human being. And I freaked the fuck out. That was a pretty big day for us. It was really tough. Within the same hour, so it was 10 o'clock, I found out that I was pregnant, and then just before 11 o'clock, we actually found out that Tris's best friend passed away. And me finding that out and then wanting to tell Tris, but also knowing that he's going through this heartbreak, I was like, how do you throw that in the mix? Yeah, so Tris ended up coming home from work, as you would. Tris came in the door and I was standing there and Billy was next to us. And I was like, it's alright because you've got us three to take care of you. And he just kind of looked at me real confused and kind of looked down at Billy, looked back at me, and I held my tummy and I was like, 3 of us.
Surprise!
Yeah, you were literally that was literal face of what he pulled.
Surprise!
Yeah, and I just sat down on the bed and we both just kind of sat there for a few minutes.
What are you supposed to say? It was a big situation. All worked out, yeah.
That's how we found out we were pregnant. That's how we got pregnant. We found out we were pregnant and we decided that we wanted to start being educated on the way we wanted to give birth, because that was something that was really important to me. I wanted to ensure that when Bub came into the world, it was super calm and wasn't stressful. We didn't feel fearful for his or mine life, and we could just relax and enjoy that moment. That's such a special moment where we get to meet our son for the first time. We decided to do hypnobirthing through Megan. I will pop a link through her below because she is the most incredible woman you will ever meet. So educated, so beautiful and calm, and such a strong woman and passionate about what she does. Incredible. Anyway, so we decided to do hypnobirthing through her, and basically what that is ensuring that you're educated on all your different options. You can have the birth you want, and you can have a birth that's calm.
You know the blueprint of it all. Birth's supposed to be beautiful and not stressful, and she really implements that into you. So 6 weeks course. Over that course we learnt all breathing techniques, pain relief positions for Chloe during birth. She really gets down to the nitty gritties.
This is when I was about 30 weeks pregnant, we started doing that. So we already knew a fair bit about our pregnancy and where we were at. Basically knowing that we were low risk, we'd had a healthy pregnancy, we'd had no issues at all so far, that puts you in a place where for your birth you have a lot of different options.
It's pretty much our appointments. We obviously had multiple midwives. We didn't have a private midwife, I think it was just the luck of the draw. Each time we came there with a new set of questions, you know, the percentage rates of being induced, ask like what their opinion is on what the hospital's policies are, knowing everything down to fine detail. Lucky enough that most of the midwives really believe in the whole natural birthing thing.
So basically that's all the background of how we got pregnant and what we did to educate ourselves for our pregnancy and our birth. We were due to give birth on 13th of April. It's completely normal to go overdue. I pretty much had it in my head that I was going to go overdue, so that way if I gave birth heaps late, I wouldn't feel like anxious or annoyed that I'd been pregnant for so long. But I actually didn't end up going that far overdue, so it wasn't too bad. We had a lot of plans prepared in case I did go overdue.
You have your natural instincts. Whatever you feel is right, go for it. We just chose. It was our option and we believed that we didn't need to be induced and we were willing to let him cook in the oven for a bit longer.
Cook him up. The few days leading up to my labour, I had been doing heaps of relaxing things, bouncing on my gym ball, having lavender baths, lavender diffusers. I've been using clary sage, which is like another essential oil. I had been using Epsom salts and magnesium.
Got a pregnancy massage by Megan also.
Oh, so nice. Letting Bub know that my body's ready for birth so that when he's ready to come, he knows he's welcome anytime. Then on the 18th at 1 a.m, I woke up and I was in a huge puddle of water. It was huge, like it was crazy. And I remember waking up and I was cold because I was in a big puddle of water. I just rolled over Tristan and I was in shock and I was like, did my waters break or have I peed myself?
And we ended up having to smell it.
Then we got down and put our noses in it and we were sniffing it and we're like, does it really smell like pee? Nah, it's definitely got to be water. I was still sitting at this point. I hadn't stood up yet. But then I stood up. Oh man, it was my waters.
And you went straight to the toilet and you weren't sure if you were peeing or still having your waters break, so you just had to sit there.
I think we were up for like an hour, just like talking about my waters breaking.
Yeah.
Because I actually wasn't in any pain. Like I hadn't started contracting. I'd started to get little, I guess, twitches, like little period cramps.
Looking at me like, yeah, I was feeling period cramps, but nah, I don't know.
I went back to bed at like 2 o'clock. And Tris doesn't remember this, but we slept until like 9 a.m. that morning. The house was completely dark. I didn't want lots of stimulation. So we slept, I'm sure. So I wanted to have like all healthy snacks. I was ravenous. Frozen grapes, protein balls, mixed nuts, tons of water, coconut water. I remember like having contractions throughout the day, like on and off, but it wasn't constant, it wasn't severe. I was just like relaxing and in my zone. I think I was really excited. So my body like kind of stopped the contractions a little bit because I was just like, yes baby, ah.
Then come to the end of the night and we hit about 24 hours and that's when our contractions started being a bit more regular. I had the salt lamps on, relaxation music. Remember we ended up calling the hospital in the end just to get their opinion on when we should come to the hospital. They suggested that we'd come in for the fact that she'd had her waters broken for over 24 hours, which is a, I guess, caution for infections. Your vagina's not a straw. Definitely does not suck up stuff. Yeah. If it did, that'd be pretty incredible.
We get infections all the time if like my vagina sucked up stuff.
We said no politely.
Because I was low risk and healthy. No fevers, I was calm. I could still feel Bub moving, like completely healthy. I'm like all in relation to me.
Which was good because we just wanted to stay home in our own comfort zone, even though we took everything from home and made it feel like our bedroom at the hospital.
When you're at home, you're so much more relaxed. As soon as you walk inside, you're like, and my body needs to be relaxed to allow baby to come through. So we took
pillows, salt lamp, computer.
So all my senses were like home, and that way I didn't feel like I was in a different environment where you automatically like shut off.
In your zone.
Yeah, I was in my zone. I reckon it was like 9 o'clock at night and I was sitting literally behind this couch on my bouncy ball, just sitting there eating, and that's when my contractions started to get a bit harder and I was like, oh, I better stop eating. And I remember like going into the other room and that's when it started to get stronger. And so the rule's 3, 2, 1, 3 contractions.
2 minutes apart for 1 hour.
Anyway, we knew at the time. Yeah. Our contractions started to get really close together. They were basically spot on. Tristan had a little measurer on his phone.
There was a contraction timer and it would tell you your average and your times in between, and I saw it all over the place. At one stage they were pretty steady. Once you started getting excited and whatnot, it really spaced them out again. By this stage we'd done all of our bouncing, our polar bear poses, all of our relaxation. It was time to go. Get to the hospital and she's too excited and all the contractions just die off, which was a killer. I've learned that you just got to be blunt until your contractions are really gone.
I think they changed to like 10 minutes apart. Partly I think because I was super excited, but then especially once we got to the hospital, it still isn't home. We left here at 11, we got there about 12, and we were super lucky. Normally, if your contractions aren't on the 3, 2, 1 rule, they'll send you home because they don't have room for you.
Let us actually sleep and get some energy back. I remember we were both pretty sleep deprived at that stage.
We'd been in labour for 24 hours, so we had slept the night before, but we knew we weren't going to get any sleep that night, the second night, and we'd been pretty excited. So as much as I was resting and like in my zone, but I was also like in labour. Got to the hospital, hopped into the room. They timed my contractions, they checked my blood pressure, checked my fevers, things like that. Bub's heart rate, checked his position. Normally when you get admitted to hospital you have a vaginal examination, which is your vagina getting examined. And I didn't want that because I didn't want any interruption. Like, that's Bub's area, let him do his thing. As well, that allows for more germs to be put into my vagina. So my vagina is not a straw, but if you put stuff in there, then there's going to be germs in there and I'm more likely to get an infection. And they were like, look, your contractions aren't... Not the baby?
Yep.
BRB. Yes, you did a poo-poo. Did you do a poo-poo?
Yeah.
A little bit of intermission. Close off that poop. Okay, it's actually 2 weeks later and we're finally finishing this video, but Bub's down for a nap and Tristan finally has a day off work and we have daylight because we can't do it at night because the lighting's terrible. We were talking about, we arrived at the hospital, my contractions were not constant enough, so they have to be every couple minutes and they have to be strong, which basically means you're in active labour and your baby's coming. That was not happening. Normally, if that's not happening, they'll send you back home and then you have to go back to the hospital again when you think you're in active labour again and basically repeat that until you're actually in active labour. Lucky enough, they had heaps of spare rooms because they weren't busy and we got to stay the night. We'd been in labour for 24 hours when we got there. That means that they like to put you on antibiotic if your water has broken, was the first thing that happened, because it can allow for infection because the baby's not in an amniotic sac anymore. I didn't want to put me or cut on antibiotics because antibiotics can damage your immune system and gut lining. If it's a necessity, completely agree, but they were doing it as a just in case. I had no fevers, no signs of distress for Bub. Everything was perfectly healthy and fine. I said no to that, but that meant that because I wasn't on antibiotics, I couldn't have a water birth, which is what like our dream birth was. We decided that we were still okay with that. We'll cross water birth off the list because that means we get to continue with our decision to not have any interference. So until 7 in the morning, we basically woke up every 15 minutes because I was having contractions every 10 to 15 minutes. So for 7 hours, we were just like in and out of sleep. Tris was just supporting me as I was having my contractions and my body was working its way up to being in active labour.
Pretty much that whole time between, you know, when we got to sleep till 7 a.m, contractions she was having, her whole back would flex and would require me to put all my weight to sort of allow her a little bit of comfort. By the time 7 o'clock come, we were so sleep deprived and just at each other, not intentionally, it just happened. Watching that sun come up was probably the best thing ever. It was like, it's a new day, new start, the baby's coming today.
Yeah, seeing the sun, you're like, oh my god, like he has to come today, like we've got another 24 hours, he is going to be here, I'm determined to get this baby out. Your mind starts blocking it out. Like, I couldn't talk, I was labouring at my back, so I wasn't labouring in the front, I wasn't like period cramps, it was like a back pain, like somebody was taking a hammer to my back. Not to scare you from birth or anything. The pain was like My back was pushing out as Bub's head was coming down because it was moving my back out of the way. And Tristan had to like push my back into place. He had his whole body weight, which like he weighs a lot more than me, on my back, just pushing it back down to stop Bub from pushing my back out. It's a lot of back. But
That is a lot of back.
That's a lot of back.
That's a lot of back. The best thing was the shower the next morning. It was refreshing up. It was warm. It was reset your day, ready for a hard yakka.
After a whole night of being in labour, like you're both so exhausted and you're trying to communicate, but like in my head, I would think I was talking and I wasn't even talking. You go into your own world, your primitive animal instincts kick in. I'd want Tristan to like press on my back, I'd start to get a contraction, and I'd be trying to tell him to do it, and he'd just be like, what are you trying to say? And I was like,
grunting at me.
Yeah. And Tristan like was being polite, but at the same time he's like, what do you want me to do? Like, what are you saying?
About 11 o'clock we got the all clear. Chloe decided to let us have an inspection to see how far along he was and how dilated. She wanted me to know only, and if she wasn't dilated enough, she didn't want to feel so let down on herself after all the hard work she's been through. She was well and truly ready to push you out, like his head was nearly out, so it was go time.
Basically you have like, it's in centimetres, so you have to be 10 centimetres dilated to be ready to push the baby. I didn't want to be in labour for 24 hours and then them have a look and be like, oh, you're only like 4 centimetres, you're not even halfway. I knew like mentally I would shut down and be like, this has been so hard and I'm only halfway, I have to redo this all over again. So at this point I'd been doing active labour, moving around the room, but for pushing I wanted to just be in the one spot. But I didn't want to be straight on my back, puts too much pressure on my back, but it also allows like for tearing. I wanted to like hop on my side, so I was like literally like laying on my side, and Tristan was like holding my leg up and I was like this. It pulled Bub like to the front and down rather than like backwards towards my spine. As I started to push, they had to keep the Doppler on my belly, watching his heartbeat. And towards the end, as my contractions were starting to get lighter, she basically was like, you need to push. I remember her asking me, why aren't you pushing as hard as you possibly can? And I was just like, I'm scared too, like I don't want to break my vagina, I don't want it to tear.
It burns.
Yeah, I was like, it burns. And then she was like you'll be fine. I'm holding your vagina, I've got it, you're all good.
His heart rate dropped ridiculously. That's why the last push had to be the biggest one she'd done out of the whole lot.
Right before that last big push, she basically said to us, the cord's wrapped around his neck and his heart rate's dropping, like he's struggling to breathe. So you need to get him out now. That was like the willpower to be like now my baby's like in distress. That was the first time out of the whole labour he'd been in stress, and I was like, I'll do anything to get him out and get him safe.
Chloe needed to push one last time, but the contractions started to die off and it was all willpower. It was her, she had to push without a contraction. It was the last one and got him out.
Don't recommend that. Got hemorrhoids.
And booed herself.
But got a baby.
By 11:58, Bub was out that day. Good Friday, 19th of the 4th, 19.
Basically like the hard part's like the head and then the shoulders, and after you get the shoulders, they just slide on out. Let's say your bladder's been really full for 9 months and you finally get to pee. You can just breathe again. You're like, whew. I remember them showing me the mirror as he was coming out and feeling that release. I remember just being in shock. I think because I'd been so excited to give birth, been waiting to meet him for that long, that when I finally did, I honestly didn't even know what to do. They put him on my chest straight away, kept the cord attached still. He was just on my chest and I just kind of remember staring at him being like, oh my god, like this is my baby. He
cried straight away, he was so alert, which was the main thing we wanted. He didn't come out groggy, upset, nothing.
He was just like wide-eyed, straight away staring at us. Just from the get-go, he's such a lively baby. He still is. He moves 24/7. It'd been about 15 minutes and at that point you have to push out your placenta. I did that without the oxytocin, which is like a drug to help the placenta come out. My placenta came out, but also the oxytocin helps your muscles for your cervix close up, which stops any further blood flow coming out, which some women can do naturally, but some women can't, and I couldn't.
They thought there might have been a little bit of placenta still inside Chloe, which was the reason why she was still bleeding. And then they checked the placenta, there was no missing part. I remember watching the nurse literally get her hand from the top of Chloe's stomach like a big squeegee and push down. It was pretty gross. Like I thought she was going to touch her spine. Just scraped her down, and then we found out that she had 5 or 6 big blood clots up there. The cervix wasn't contracting itself to stop it all. They all of a sudden had everyone come in, surgery rooms booked, they had everything just for emergencies. We sort of knew that it wasn't overly stressful because we knew that the GCUH was going to look after her.
They had like 10 different people from all different areas of the hospital come in, so that no matter what, I was covered. Whatever they needed, every single person that may possibly be needed was in that room.
I got to take Bub. We sort of just sat in the corner and did our little things, skin to skin, and had some bonding time.
Even though like hemorrhaging sounds, I guess, scary, I just remember the whole time laying there. And firstly, because there were all these people taking care of me, I knew like they had it covered, they knew what they were doing. But second of all, that like I could see Tris and Bub like sitting in the corner, and I just remember like, I'm getting like emotional. I just remember like staring at them and just knowing that like, I don't know, Bub was safe and Tris had him, and just like being able to sit there and stare at them, I didn't care whatever else was going on because like my baby was there. It was just like the best feeling.
About half an hour they had all the bleeding under control, and they did give her multiple medicines, oxytocin, syntocin, and another one. Come to the third one, they said if it didn't work to stop the bleeding, then it was going to be surgery time. Sure enough, it worked, and everyone was out of the room, we were able to have some family time. She held Bub, and it sort of just distracted her from everything.
The love hormone basically takes over, and because you have your baby, you just like forget about all the hard parts. We did like a lot of planning to make sure that we had the birth we wanted. We didn't have our dream planned birth, but because we were so prepared on all the different options of where our birth could go, it made birth beautiful. We didn't plan for me to hemorrhage or me to not have a water birth or have to have the option for antibiotics and things like that. That wasn't in our dream birth. Coming out of it, like I wouldn't change a thing. I was so happy with the way it was because we knew what we were agreeing to and saying no to. We were in control the whole time. I think the biggest thing is feeling like you've lost control and having to hand your birth into somebody else's hands and saying, look, just get my baby to me safely. We didn't have anything severe happen, which makes a huge difference as well. We just tried to make it as easy as possible for both me and Bub and Tris as well, since he was the one who like needed to communicate for me and make all the major decisions for me. How did you feel when like Bub came out?
I was shocked. He was actually here. 9 months of being in the belly, feeling him kick around, but then actually holding him. It definitely took a couple of weeks to sink in to know that he's really here. Birth didn't really gross me out. The scary part was watching your back flex out. Like that was next level, watching bones literally poke out of her skin. As the contraction was happening, you could just see everything shifting, allowing the pathway for Bub to come through.
What about like when you were sitting in the corner like I was hemorrhaging?
I knew they had you. I knew that they were going to look after you, and there was nothing I could do besides look after Bub. I knew that they wouldn't stuff around because they jumped into action straight away, just wanted to get it fixed. So I knew it wasn't something that was out of the ordinary for them. I think if we were anywhere else, I probably would have been a bit stressed out. The facilities at GCUH are top notch. It was scary sitting in the corner, but awesome experience, the whole lot.
What about like during labour? Like what was it like trying to be the support person? You can be honest.
50-50. It was tough at times. You wonder if you're making the right decision. Is now the right time to have a little chat with Chloe while she's in her zone? Do I wait for her meditation song to wait? Just, there's plenty of things to consider to whether it's going to take her out of her zone or whether I can just make the decision on the spot for her. At the end of it, I think all the decisions we made were the right ones, regardless if it was just me who made it or whether we made it together. How were you feeling at the end of it all? You know, soreness, excited to actually hugging Bub. What was your best part at the end?
The weird thing is, I thought the best part would have been when I first held him. The best part was seeing Tris hold him. Yeah, I don't know why. Like it just makes me emotional. Like, I think because I knew that Tris had supported me so much to help me get Bub here safely, that seeing Tris's hard work pay off. It's not all me that does the hard work. I couldn't have done it without having Tris there because I wouldn't have been able to go into my own little zone and focus. Being able to see Bub with him, it just puts everything into perspective. Holding him was definitely amazing, but yeah, that was probably my favourite moment. I know that I was hemorrhaging at that moment, but I forget about that. I was just like so consumed by watching them. If I wasn't able to see them and all I could focus on was these people like pumping my stomach, then it would have hurt so much more, but it didn't hurt because I could see my babies. In the end, We had a beautiful, healthy boy. He came out 8.1 pounds and he was 51 centimeters long. He came out with so much colour and he was so alert and oh, just our baby boy. So cute. So that's our birth story. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed hearing about our birth story, like and subscribe to my channel, comment for anything more you want to hear about, and I will keep you guys up to date.
You know,
Like, basically, like,
you know, put it back in a double quarter pounder at 5 in the morning. So I was munging out in it and I was like, I can smell pickle. Boom, and then ate another side and I was like, I can still smell fucking pickle. And that was another one. I was like, oh. Like, well, you know,
yeah, so, yeah,